As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and violet, we often find ourselves winding down, reflecting on the day that's passed. It's in these quiet moments that the whispers of our deepest concerns tend to surface. Perhaps it's the weight of an unfulfilled ambition, the gnawing worry about tomorrow's challenges, or the persistent ache of not quite having enough. This feeling, this underlying tension, often springs from a place we might not immediately recognize: desire. Not just the simple wish for something pleasant, but the deep-seated, sometimes unconscious, craving for things to be other than they are. We chase after more, believing that an external acquisition, be it wealth, recognition, or even perfect relationships, will finally bring us lasting peace. Yet, ironically, this very pursuit can tie us to a relentless cycle of fear. Fear of not getting what we want, fear of losing what we have, and fear of falling short of our own expectations. It's a subtle trap, spun not by an external force, but by the intricate workings of our own minds. This trap of desire and fear is not a new phenomenon. It has been observed and understood by wise individuals across millennia and cultures. Imagine a thirsty traveler in a desert, their mind fixated on an oasis just beyond the horizon. The desire for water is so intense that every step is filled with anxiety, every mirage a cruel taunt. They believe that only by reaching that oasis will their suffering end. But what if, in their frantic pursuit, they overlook a small, clear spring bubbling quietly at their feet? This simple image holds a profound truth. Our desires, when unchecked, can blind us to the present moment, to the simple abundances that already exist in our lives. We become so focused on what we lack and what we want to acquire that we miss the quiet richness of what we have. It's like constantly gazing at a distant star, yearning to touch it, while neglecting the warmth of the sun on our skin right now. This constant forward-looking, this relentless yearning, is the fertile ground where the seeds of fear are sown. The Buddha, in his profound wisdom, often spoke of tanha, which is usually translated as craving or clinging. It's not merely desire in its broadest sense, like the desire for food when hungry. Rather, it's the insatiable craving for things to be different, the relentless pursuit of sensations, possessions, and experiences, or the equally strong craving for things not to be free from pain, discomfort, or boredom. He taught that this clinging is the root cause of suffering, and by extension, a potent source of fear. When we cling to the idea of a perfect outcome, we live in constant dread of imperfection. When we cling to a particular identity, we fear anything that might challenge it. When we cling to fleeting pleasures, we inevitably face the fear of their impermanence, knowing they will eventually slip through our fingers like grains of sand. This isn't about eradicating all desires, for that would be impossible, and perhaps even undesirable. It's about understanding the nature of these cravings and how they can bind us rather than liberate us. Consider the ancient proverb, "The unexamined life is not worth living." While often attributed to Socrates, its sentiment echoes through many spiritual traditions, including Buddhism. It speaks to the critical importance of self-awareness. When we are unaware of our desires, when we simply act on impulse or habit, we are essentially living on autopilot, driven by forces we don't understand. This lack of understanding leaves us vulnerable. We chase after fleeting pleasures, convinced they will bring lasting happiness. only to find ourselves disappointed and fearful when they inevitably fade. We avoid uncomfortable truths, fearing the pain they might bring, thereby trapping ourselves in a cycle of avoidance and anxiety. To truly free ourselves from the trap of desire and fear, we must first shine a light on these internal workings. We must pause, observe, and inquire into the nature of our cravings. Where do they come from? What are they truly seeking? And do they genuinely lead us toward peace or further into agitation? This process of examination isn't about judgment, but about observation, much like a scientist observes a natural phenomenon. Let's take the example of a young woman named Maya, who desperately desired a promotion at her job. She worked tirelessly, often sacrificing her well-being, driven by the belief that this promotion would finally validate her and bring her happiness. Yet with each passing day, her anxiety grew. She feared not being good enough, feared being overlooked, and feared the disappointment that would surely follow if she didn't achieve her goal. This desire, initially a motivator, had become a source of immense stress and fear, robbing her of her present peace. Her colleagues noticed her agitation, and ironically, her desperation sometimes clouded her judgment. It was only when a kind mentor gently encouraged her to look within, to question why this promotion held so much power over her, that Maya began to see the trap she was in. She started to understand that her desire for external validation was a bottomless well, and that true worth had to come from within. This realization that our fear often stems from an attachment to specific outcomes is a cornerstone of Buddhist teachings. The concept of non-attachment isn't about apathy or not caring. Rather, it's about releasing the disparate grip on how things must be. It's about recognizing that everything is constantly changing, including our circumstances, our relationships, and even our own feelings. When we cling to the idea of permanence, we set ourselves up for disappointment and fear. Think of a leaf clinging to a branch in autumn. Its desire to remain green and vibrant, to resist the natural cycle, would only lead to a prolonged struggle and eventual fear as it watches other leaves fall. But the leaf that gracefully accepts its changing nature, that allows itself to be carried by the wind when its time comes, experiences a different kind of freedom. This doesn't mean we don't strive for goals or work hard. It means we do so with an open hand, understanding that the outcome is not entirely within our control, and that our peace shouldn't depend on it. So how do we cultivate this non-attachment, this freedom from the grip of desire and fear? It begins with mindfulness, a gentle yet powerful practice. Mindfulness is simply paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's noticing the thoughts, feelings, and sensations that arise within us, observing them as they come and go without getting swept away by them. When a strong desire arises, instead of immediately chasing after it, we can pause and simply observe the feeling of wanting. Notice the tension it creates, the restlessness it brings. When fear arises, we can acknowledge its presence, feel it in our bodies without letting it dictate our actions. This deliberate observation helps us to create a little space between ourselves and our desires, between ourselves and our fears. In that space, we gain clarity, and the power of these emotions begins to wane. It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. We see them, but we don't try to grasp them or make them stay. This mindful observation also extends to our reactions to impermanence. The Christian tradition, for instance, speaks of laying up treasures in heaven, not on earth where moth and rust destroy. This isn't just a spiritual metaphor. It's a practical guide for navigating life's inherent fleetingness. If our sense of security and happiness is entirely invested in things that can be lost, broken, or taken away, be it a job, a relationship, or even our physical health, then fear becomes an inevitable companion. By understanding that everything is subject to change, we can begin to shift our focus from external acquisitions to internal states of being. We can learn to find contentment not in the having of things, but in the being of ourselves, regardless of external circumstances. This fundamental shift in perspective is what truly begins to dismantle the trap. This brings us to the profound wisdom embedded in the often heard phrase, "Let go or be dragged." It's a powerful idiom that perfectly encapsulates the choice we face when confronted with our desires and fears. We can stubbornly cling to what we want, to how we believe things should be, and in doing so, experience the pain and exhaustion of being dragged through life by our attachments. Or we can choose to release our grip, to accept the flow of life as it is, and discover a freedom that was always within reach. This doesn't mean we become passive or indifferent. Instead, it means we engage with life with an open heart and a clear mind, doing our best, but understanding that the ultimate outcome is not ours to control. It's about finding peace not in the absence of challenges, but in our ability to navigate them with equanimity, realizing that true security lies not in what we possess, but in who we are. In essence, the path to releasing ourselves from the trap of desire and fear is a journey of self-discovery, illuminated by ancient wisdom. It's about recognizing that the constant striving for more, the relentless pursuit of external validation, and the clinging to outcomes that are beyond our control are the very chains that bind us. By cultivating mindfulness, embracing non-attachment, and understanding the impermanence of all things, we begin to loosen these chains, one by one. This isn't a passive surrender, but an active engagement with life from a place of inner strength and peace. It's about finding freedom, not by getting everything we want, but by understanding that we already have everything we need within us to navigate the ever-changing currents of existence. May you find solace and strength in this understanding, stepping forward with an open heart and a mind at ease, no longer trapped, but truly free.